Welcome. This is our panel of women in IT. Um, a little bit of background for this panel was that I know a lot of amazing women on this campus that have these interesting stories, and I know other women on campus that have the imposter syndrome. They're struggling with that, thinking, "Oh, I don't have the right credentials. I don't have the right background. I don't deserve to be in tech. I haven't done the right things. I haven't checked the right boxes to be an IT person." And that's not something anybody needs to feel. We all belong here. Um, I certainly got that message for the last 30 years as a woman in tech that probably shouldn't be here, but here I am. I would have loved to hear from this panel when I was early career. If I were 25 looking at this panel, it would have just absolutely blown my mind seeing these wonderful, successful women. And sometimes you see women and you don't understand what they've done to get to the places that they've been, whether they've made a conscious choice to move uh, their careers forward, whether they've changed companies to take a different opportunity, whether they've taken a step back, whether they've done it sideways because they needed to take care of family members, or real life gets in the way. I've been at the same place for it'll be 23 years in October, and having that kind of a stable, not very stressful job has allowed me to do a lot of other things in my personal life, like running a hockey league and raising children. And so like that was a conscious choice on my part as well, to sort of have the job and then not have it bleed into home, and have a really good work-life balance. So we're going to hear from each of our panelists. They're going to introduce themselves, and then, by the way, I'm Amanda Thornton, she, her, hers. I'm a software developer at Space Science Engineering Center. They will introduce themselves and then say a little bit about their careers and maybe an inflection point or two, or a time when they made a conscious decision to move from here to here, or maybe a meaningful mentor. So I kind of left the prompt for them a little bit open, and hopefully we can hear some great stories and be inspired to like, okay, I can make these decisions. This is an okay thing. I belong here. These women are wonderful. So hopefully you can take that away. Kelsey from Employee Resources is here to give us some guidance on how UW can help you with your career, and she'll be throwing a little bit of information and links at the end, and she will also be available to ask questions if they come up that apply. We will do questions in chat. I will try to get to all of them. We may not have a lot of time. We've got about an hour. And the panelists also do not know what order I'm going to call on them. So I am sorry for not providing an order. I am going to put Elizabeth on the spot and have her go first. Take it away, Elizabeth. And I don't know if I can call on the next person, or if you would like to have that privilege, that would be fine too.
I can see everybody else just taking a deep breath right now. Catch me up, Amanda, on one thing. Is this introductions, and then we're going to do another round with the decision piece? Or is this all in one go?
You do your piece. Yes. I'm Elizabeth. Here's my story. Yeah.
Here's my story. All right. So as Amanda said, I'm Elizabeth. My name's Elizabeth Simcock, she, her pronouns. I am a Do It Associate Director leading the web platforms and services space. So that includes Knowledge Base, my UW web hosting, Whisk Web, GitLab, UW-Madison profile. Previously, I spent most of my years in the School of Medicine and Public Health, where I started out in a real kitchen sink of a role. I was doing front-end website, back-end application development, content writing, journalism, social media, poster design, scientific data visualization and communication. There was really not a nice, clean TTC job title that would have worked for that, but that's what I was. My path, if I look back, I do not have a CS degree. In my first 10 years in my career, I did not have people who were talking about career path with me, and I didn't really, I didn't have the confidence to bring those conversations forward very much. I had also co-prioritized arts and official career, I guess I would say. And so I was really doing both for a lot of that early time. Another interesting piece of that for me is that I did not have managers who were in IT in my early career. And maybe of particular note in a Women in Technology panel, to this date, all of my supervisors have either been non-IT women or IT men. So some of them have been absolutely great, but it's a data point. The pivot for me was, I think there were two. There was a small pivot and a large pivot. My small pivot came when I asked my then supervisor if I could semi-officially lead, organize the small group of developers in my unit. They wanted somebody who would talk to the people so that they could just code. And I like to get to do both parts. So it wasn't official, though. It was growth, but it was definitely not official. My bigger pivot came actually when I decided to join the conference for this committee. And I haven't been part of the organizing for this committee for a while. But that was, I was in a space where we didn't get out much into the rest of campus. And that was a huge change for me to get out into the rest of campus and meet people. And I found that I could hold my own and lead change with people who were already doing it, which was kind of a surprise to me at the time. And then a number of people that I worked with on the conference nominated me for the More Leadership program. And I learned a couple of things there, but one of the big ones was that all of the things that I was doing, all the things that drove my curiosity and got me excited about work were the things where I could see different angles about how things were put together. It's why I like that early kitchen sink role in a lot of ways. And it's why I made the jump from school of medicine and public health to do it with my most recent move. I've just found that I really like seeing how things work from different perspectives and different angles. So that's my story.
Thank you. Do you want to pick the next person or you want me to do it?
Salima, you're up.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Salima Kareemboy, she, her pronouns. I currently work as an innovation analyst lead with administration, innovation, and planning. So we are working on the Madison readiness side for Workday. Specifically, I'm in the finance side, just trying to get all the pieces together so that we can go live. I would say that my path into IT wasn't traditional at all. I do not come from a comp sci background. I was a business and finance major in college. I worked at Wells Fargo underwriting mortgages. And then I actually decided to get a master's in teaching. And I thought I'm going to teach high school math because I had a minor in math. And life changes happened. And the next thing I know, I was in a higher ed and I was working as an accountant at a divisional level. And IT really felt like a separate world to me at the time. But as I started growing my career and I started working more on cross-functional projects, I became really aware that I was operating actually in that space, even adjacently, because IT was like this thread or bridge that was via the tools that were always making these projects occur that I was a part of. And one of the most, I'd say, impactful decisions that I had made was trusting my gut, creating a data dashboard for divisional leadership, actually at Do It, years ago. And I didn't have a clear roadmap at all. I had to trust my own judgment, define what I think leadership was looking for because I had an idea and a vision of what they were asking for. And I just try to, go outside my comfort zone, push myself, and start doing things that were uncomfortable at the time to me. I reached out to executive leadership for strategic input, and that combination was pivotal for my career. As an introvert, that that visibility was so uncomfortable, but it changed the outcome dramatically. I mean, the relationship as I was able to build, the feedback I got, the clarity of the project that I was able to gain, that the final product was just so much stronger, uh, it was amazing, and the learning curve was really, really huge. So it just reminded me that sometimes growth doesn't always look like it looks like more like stepping forward before you're really ready to, and just taking that leap. So that's sort of my career journey.
Thank you. Would you like to select the next panelist?
Sure. Jamie.
Great. Everyone, I'm Jamie Gutkowski. I'm the Director of the User Services Department in the Division of Information Technology. I'll just drop in the chat the overview of the department so I don't spend too long deep diving into what all is encompassed, but at a high level, it's the Do It Help Desk, departmental support. We have our logistics team, things like shipping, receiving, metrics and data work. We have our internal operations team and our building management, facilities management functions. We have product management, and then we have our productivity and collaborative solutions team, which runs things like the campus email service, Microsoft, Google, Zoom, etc. So high breeze through of my current role. My journey, I started my career working in politics, and was very kind of laser focused in on that field. I did that for about, I think, 7-8 years. Just kind of my whole world was that life, and hit a point where I was burnt out, tired, kind of reconsidering what I wanted to be doing, and went back to school. And I looked at the things I had had a chance to do in my career so far, and sort of what would I miss, of the things. And I had done a lot of work around websites, digital marketing, things with data were very prevalent. It was at a time when politics was really shifting to be from this analog to this digital mode of operating. And so it was a thread through the work I had done, and also some like design stuff. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna like dip my toes in the water. I'll take a few summer classes at Madison College, signed up for a few things in the graphic design program, and then got hooked, and eventually built kind of my own front-end developer degree with the graphic design program and the IT department. And then later I got to be a part of a group that advised on them creating an actual front-end developer program, which was pretty cool, full circle. But from there, I started my own business. I had been connected up with a lot of designers, and a lot of folks do kind of all-encompassing branding work, but then they have web stuff, they have digital things. There is a real need for people to have help with that. So I was part of a consortium of independent contractors who would then band together to bid on larger projects. I did that for several years, and then eventually saw a position here at UW, and kind of considered it. It was a front-end developer role, and came into that, and got to work on a great team here, doing web work. Got to be a part of the founding group that created the UW theme, and kind of tried to shift some of our digital spaces to be a little more cohesive than they were when I started here about 10 years ago. And got to work with people like Elizabeth and others in kind of co-creating that new space. And then over time moved into management roles within Do It, starting with a interim position, and then a permanent position in the group that Elizabeth now leads, and then moving into my current role. So I think that's hopefully as short as I can make my sometimes meandering journey through different experiences. When I think about the decision points, for me, it was a series of decision points, and a lot of it was driven by deciding to follow something that I had an interest in, that I had a passion in, deciding to build on something, or kind of follow an opportunity. And I think overall, one of my biggest impactful career decisions was a mental shift towards having a growth mindset. First part of my career, I really had this external, like I needed others to be setting the standard. It was about meeting those expectations. You think about school, someone's grading you, and you're kind of working towards that grade. So overall in my career, I feel like that was my biggest, most impactful decision point. I don't know that it was a decision point, but it was just this kind of mental shift of deciding I can learn things, I can grow. It's okay to fail. It's okay to stretch yourself and, get into things that you're not sure how they're going to go. And I think once I made that mental shift, a lot of things really moved in interesting directions for me.
Fantastic. Thank you. It feels so risky sometimes to like take a step forward rather than just wait for someone to grade you on it and say, okay, you can have this opportunity now that you've gotten your straight A's. So, fun fact, I was in the ITLP program with Jamie, and when you got that interim position during that workshop, like I think physically during the workshop, that and just to see you go from that moment to here is just amazing. You're Thank you for being on this panel and talking to us. That leaves Kim, who I can't wait to hear from.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Channpraseut, and my role at UW-Madison is as the Director of Student Enterprise Applications. And I work in the Registrar's Office, where I oversee an awesome group of software engineers, business analysts who support our student information systems, integrations for the Registrar's Office. In addition to that, we also oversee governance around the student information system, as well as we do some portfolio management and some planning, work with a lot of different groups within DoIT, as well as within the Division of Enrollment Management. So my career journey is probably more of like a traditional track up until a point, and then I've jumped off just a little bit. But I started as a programmer analyst at a very small liberal arts school right out of college. And I did get a degree in computer information systems. And not really knowing what I was going to do, it just sounded interesting, right? And I worked my way through school, and I worked for a company that would pay for college as long as it was one of the programs that that they had identified as a need within their organization. And so as I got into it, I found that I really liked the business side, but also the kind of the technical and the programming side of it. So I worked at that small liberal arts college for about 6 years, started out in the admissions office, and I automated myself out of a job after about 6 months and was pulled into it. It turned out great, Amanda. They pulled me into, then after that, I was asked if I wanted to join Central IT Services, and I did, because it was, again, I always look for positions that are of interest for me. So it provided me with an opportunity to support the entire institution. And so I supported, our HR systems, finance, student systems, academic systems, foundations. Since it was a small school, we were a very small IT shop. And so it was, at the time, it didn't feel great. But it provided me, looking back, it provided me with a real opportunity to get a broad skill set and broad experience of just like what makes an institution run and what role does IT have. After I was there for about 6 years, there was a brand new community college that was being started in the area area where I worked. And I jumped at the opportunity to go and be the second IT person that was hired. And so that is one of the pivotal experiences for me, was making that leap. It was very scary to walk away from what I had known for so long. But it was a very quick introduction into IT management. I led an implementation of an ERP system, as well as many of the different ancillary systems that are still in use at that school today. Stayed there for about 7 years, and then went to a regional university. And then I was asked to go back to that community college because they had outsourced IT for a period of time. And I was asked to help lead the team in terms of like hiring and onboarding as they brought it all back into IT. And so I stayed there for a number of years as I built that team. And then COVID hit. And I got very burnt out. At that point, I was in a position as an executive director of IT. And so that would probably be more equivalent to like a deputy CIO here, where I led the IT technical response related to COVID for the entire institution. So I had all departments of IT reported up to me, and I was the direct report into the CIO. But I had to do everything from like, how do we move our LMS into the cloud? How do we, coordinating activities with the awesome team that worked with me. But how did we, make sure that like software that was used in labs was able to all move remote, as well as all of the other things that you all probably experienced and went through. And why I say I got burnt out is at that time, I had a very demanding job, as you can imagine. And then I also had a first grader, as well as a teenager going into high school. And so when we went into lockdown as a mom, it was kind of like, how do you manage all of that? I have this job where I had very high expectations, an awesome leadership team, I will say, that allowed me to just do the best that I could while I was still trying to somewhat, be a homeschool teacher, which I was horrible at, by the way. And so for me, it became, life got in the way. And that I think is the other pivotal point for me, which is actually what led me to UW-Madison, is that it just got to a point where it was just like my family needed me, and I needed to not have that much stress on me. And so when an opportunity opened up at UW-Madison, I looked at it and I was like, oh, that fits my skill set. No way is that going to be remote. I did forget to mention I live in Boise, Idaho, and still do today. And then as I was looking, that position did allow me to still live where I wanted to live, but also, you know, take on a new role and new challenges. And so I did join UW-Madison, started out in ATP, and then jumped into the registrar's office where I am today. And so that just gives you a little bit about my story. I will share one other thing when I think about like the pivotal points or the decisions that I've made. There have been a couple of others, but I think when I look back, they're really all related to knowing when is the right time to move, and knowing what are the drivers of what is going to be something that's important, not only to the organization, but also what's a driver for me. As I just mentioned, I shared a little bit, right? My kids and my family are always going to be my top driver. But then it's also the other driver for me is I'm one of those weird ones who loves change. COVID was a little more change than I like, but I'm not scared of making different jumps. I'm not scared of new technologies, new processes, even new leadership, right? I can adapt pretty well. And so, you know, I would share that with you just as that's something that's also been a driver for me. So I'll turn it back to Amanda.
Thank you. Thank you. The wonderful panelists. I love you all. You're amazing. I'm going to have Kelsey give us the 3-minute flyby of employee services and how you can help folks, you know, take that next step, whatever that step looks like. Kelsey?
Yeah, so thank you, Amanda. So my name is Kelsey Harrington, and I am one of 4 career counselors within the Employee Career Counseling Program here at UW-Madison. So as all the panelists have mentioned today, everybody has a lot of different background when it comes to their career and how they got started and where they got to where they are today, whether that's like, yeah, I actually planned on going down this route, or I kind of just fell into it, that kind of thing, or, you know, I want to change career plans and how do I get there, that kind of thing. And that's where the Employee Career Counseling Program can really come into play. It's a place for you as employees to be able to come and chat with a counselor and say, like, here's where I am in my career, this is where I want to go, or talk about the situations that are leading you to career change or job search, or just talking about like, I'm not happy in my job. How do I make this better? So for those of you that aren't really familiar with the Employee Career Counseling Program here at UW-Madison, it is a benefit to UW employees. It's a free service. So just like getting in contact with like Employee Assistance Office or HR departments, anyone like that, Life Matters, it's a free benefit to you to use. It's one-on-one confidential appointments with a licensed mental health counselor. We are all licensed mental health counselors. We just tend to focus more on the career side of things. But with that being said, our sessions really are done more through a holistic lens. So as like Kim was saying, I'm thinking about my career in perspective of thinking about my family and needing to take that on and all that comes with it. Yeah, we know that definitely our personal lives impact our career. Let's talk about that. Let's have a conversation, and it's someone to bounce ideas off of and to also put different things into perspective for you as well. So it's not just like oh, you want to come talk to a career counselor? Let's talk job search. Yes, it could be that, but also we're there to consider, you know, the whole picture as well. So it might be, you know, our personal lives, mental health, physical health, all of those things and how they're really impacting our careers are all things that we can talk about as well. I always tell people that career counseling, we can talk about anything as long as it's career related, as long as it's impacting our career in some way, shape, or form. And again, that looks different for everyone in their journeys. So again, work-life balance was a big one, or thinking about like our personal lives and how those impact our careers. Huge, definitely huge. Something else that was brought up today was like thinking about non-traditional paths into our career. So maybe you didn't go to college or have the degree that might be needed for an IT track, or you're thinking about a career change and your degree doesn't necessarily fit that. That's okay. Let's talk about what types of skills and experiences you do have and how that can translate into another position that you do have interest in. Or it might be thinking about, okay, what other professional development opportunities are out there that could be beneficial to you moving forward? Here, let me give you some resources for what UW offers. Or, hey, I know of this other resource. Maybe it's outside of UW, but here's other things you could potentially do. So it's having the opportunity to come to us too, to talk about these other things that you might have interest in, and getting resources as well to help you take those actionable steps. And that's really what we do during our sessions together, is talk about action steps that you can take to get to where you want to be. And sometimes that is thinking about, searching for a new job, and that's okay. That's what we can do. And it might be talking about how I can level up in my position, get to a management level, or maybe you're like, I am in a management level and I don't want to be here. How do I back out of that? How do I get a job? How do I talk about why I don't want to be in a management role and why I'm looking for something that's maybe a step down? We can talk about ways that you can have those discussions with employers, or when you're doing job search, how to really talk about that in your application documents as well. So those are just some of the things that we can talk about that some of our panelists have highlighted today. But we also work with individuals too that are coming to us and going, I want to do a career change. I don't know what I want to do though. Can you help me figure that out? Because it happens pretty often that we get, the start of our career and we start doing something, or even get mid-career, or I've even met with people that were towards the end of our career and it's like, I don't want to do this for the next 5 years until I retire. What else can I do? Can you help me figure that out? Yes, 100%. And things that we do during this time is look at like our interests, our skills, our different values, our work values, and our personal values, and how that could correlate to what we want to do moving forward. And we do a lot of things to figure that out, such as like different assessments and activities that we talk through together. So career counseling is all in what you want to put into it. There's no like obligation or anything. Some people come and meet with us one time, get the information they feel like is helpful and necessary, and they'll reach out as needed. And other people we meet with on a more regular basis until they decide they're in a good place or know what action steps they want to take. So I am going to stick here in chat here information for if you do want to schedule an appointment with one of our counselors, myself being included. I have our email address. You can email our general email line to get something scheduled, or give us a call. I'm also going to pop into chat our website as well. So our website is a great resource tool. So I a lot of times will point people in the direction of our website because it's a self-service tool that we have available for all employees. Whether you're thinking about doing career counseling or not, I encourage you to go check it out because it has a lot of helpful information on there. Two of the things that I really suggest looking into are our career planning process, or our DIY career planning steps. Whoops, and then I messed it. I can copy and paste it, you guys, it's fine. So this is kind of, we'll walk you through like, where are you currently at in your career process, and where do you maybe want to get to? This can also help you identify some steps that you can take, and there's helpful resources on there, like I said, different assessments and activities to help you kind of answer some of those questions that you might have. But also it might lead you to say, maybe I really do want to talk to somebody about this after doing these activities, and you can 100% then make an appointment with one of our counselors to have more conversation about, your thoughts and what you want to do moving forward. I'm also sticking into chat our career toolkit, which has just a lot of great tips and tricks, resumes, interviewing, networking, all of those things too, which are huge for building our career as well. So I definitely urge you to go check out some of those things and our website in general. And like I said, career counseling is for anyone on campus that is a UW employee, and it's a free service to you. So even if you just want to know more about it, you're more than welcome to reach out to us, reach out to me personally. I'm happy to answer any questions. But it's a great resource that is unique to UW-Madison. Not a lot of places have this, and it's a great benefit just to think about your career and what you want to do moving forward and how we can help you in that process. And it's confidential, so there's no worries about it getting back to coworkers, colleagues, supervisors, anybody like that. We're happy to have those conversations in confidence.
Thank you, Kelsey. I'm sure folks will have questions for you and get you over there. And that's free?
Yes, it's free as a benefit to you as an employee.
Great. Thank you. Now as I get to ask some questions of the panelists, and then we'll have some of your questions to the panelists. I really want to start with, so for folks on the panel that have had sort of not IT jobs, each of you, it sounds like each of you had some experience with a not IT job. What specific skills did you bring in to IT that maybe somebody might not think of that might be part of IT? And hopefully we can have everyone answer, and we'll go in the order that we introduce ourselves. So Elizabeth, what non-traditional IT skills did you find and bring in and found useful?
This is a fun one for me because I did not realize it until way after it had kind of become something that I was just already using as part of my job. I didn't make the connection back. So I mentioned earlier that I was kind of prioritizing career and arts things. And on the arts side of things, I spent 15 years also working, also starting a family, but maybe not entirely clear in my own head in terms of being able to sleep. But I was also a performing musician. And so I spent a lot of time on stage, and we were singing songs in languages that the people who were listening probably didn't understand, which meant we had to tell the stories of the songs ahead of time to bring them into what was going on, to help them come along for this journey that we were going to take them on through this song. And when you do that a lot, you kind of get into patterns and rhythms, whether you start telling the same stories over and over again to different audiences all the time, and you have to still make it real for them because it's their first time hearing it. And it took me probably until 5 or 6 years ago to realize that that is a critical skill that I get to use every day in my job here. Is that like telling people why they care about the thing that you're telling them about. Because we're all busy. We all have major projects going on all the time. We have to bring things to multiple audiences and tell an individual, a small group, a big group, whatever it is, why this thing matters to them. And it's something I use here every day, and I did not see that coming. I did not spend my time on stage thinking, man, this is going to be great when I'm in IT later in life.
Amazing, amazing. As someone that did not have that coming into IT and struggled in a lot of early meetings. Amazing. Okay. Selena.
That's a great story, Elizabeth. So similarly, I've noticed that, time is never wasted. Like when you think you're on a project and you're like, I don't know what this is going to help me with, there will be something in the future that you will see the line of why it was valuable and you'll learn something from it. So for me, doing dashboards and recognizing different types of learners and their styles of learning. So when I'm taking, approach to data and I start recognizing that stakeholders, like they don't approach it the same way and like trying to recognize how people process information to help design the dashboards is really part of that UX experience. But what I didn't recognize until later was that my master's in education, we like use Gartner's like multiple intelligences all the time. And so I'm always applying that same concept of how are my stakeholders learning that I can help to make the dashboard apply to them. So I find it, fascinating that there's a line, and I learned something way back when that still applies today. So
Incredible. I hear you talk about design thinking. Was that from the master's program too?
Yeah, so
teaching
design
learning?
thinking is what we started working on actually later on at Do It. I learned design thinking, and so we applied that in developing the dashboards with the iterative approach and prototyping quick and fast, and then getting feedback from stakeholders. And so that was sort of the process of what I'm doing now is with using design thinking as I'm using Gartner's and multiple intelligences every day. So yeah, there you
I
go.
always learn something.
Yeah.
Amazing. And that was me knowing a little bit about Selena that the audience may not know. So I muted myself too early. Jamie.
I was pretty sure I remembered I was next. There's a million things I feel like I could identify because I think anything you do, you pick up skills that you can just apply anywhere. And but when I thought about this question, a few things come to mind. Organizing and like people, things, plans, strategies. That was a big hallmark of my early career, including, making a direct ask of people to do something specific. There's a real power in that. It's something that we don't realize that we don't actually do very often or very well. And so just the fact of saying, I need you to help do this thing will often get people to do things. And so that's a big game changer, I think, in thinking about like leading by influence and, motivating people to do things, and in our university setting, those are so key. It's, we very rarely have a mandate. Even when we do, we've got to have, relationships and influence and buy-in to move it forward. And so just a very clear ask was one big takeaway for me. Learning about other people, especially kind of digging deeper, kind of like Kim had said, I've also found myself in that sort of like leading change, starting change, managing through change. And I think inside IT, out of IT, I've really learned that it's like important to dig deeper into what's really going on through that process with people, something that feels like resistance. If you approach it with curiosity and empathy, you'll often find there's something else at play there that can actually be, kind of addressed in tandem. It doesn't have to be a, us versus them, me versus you. It's, how do we all work together? How do we find the win-win? Setting and managing expectations was kind of a practiced skill over the span of my career. And then when I was running my own business, that process of sort of earning new business and clients, of maintaining those relationships, of, the expectation management, managing high volume times, and, keeping everyone kind of satisfied with the services they're receiving, while also keeping a handle on my own, capacity. Those have all really translated over into the IT career as well.
I love this casually. When I was running my own business, it's fine. Like it wasn't incredibly amazing for you to do. So anyway, Kim.
Yeah, I think for me, probably be knowing when to speak up, throughout my career. And even when I was in college, as I mentioned, I took the traditional route. I was one of two women in most of my IT classes. And for most of my career, I was the only woman and the youngest most of the time, not so much now as I get older, but I was also like the only female and the youngest individual on senior IT leadership roles. And so I don't know if I should thank or blame my two older brothers, but they should get some sort of credit in terms of like, I think how I'm not afraid to like stand up for what I think is right, or if I see something, that is challenging my personal values, or something that is maybe on the lines of being unethical. I think, I let my personal values drive a lot of how I lead. And I think knowing when to speak up and maybe when to step back too, right? Check myself. I think those have been the two biggest ones for me.
Incredible. All right. I have another question, and I ask these questions because I want to hear the answer. So hopefully you want to hear the answer too. My second question is, what do you love about your current job on campus? If you don't love your current job on campus, you can use a different job. We won't even know. So Elizabeth?
I do love my current job on campus. And what do I love most about it? I really love the people I get to work with. And I realize that is an answer that people give all the time when they're in jobs that they are happy in. But I think the opposite of that also tends to be really true. Like if you're working with people that are making your life miserable, or where you just clash and can't figure out how to get past it, then you probably don't like your job either. So, maybe it's a given that if I like my job, I also like the people I work with. But I feel like this is sort of something I just realized as I was talking here in the earlier part, when I was talking about either having had women who were not in IT as managers, or men who were in IT as managers, and again, some of them absolutely great supervisors. It's weird for me to think that now I get to be what I wasn't, what I didn't have. And I think I hadn't quite pieced that together until I was talking through it. So dang it, Amanda, you're going to make me cry by asking questions. But it does matter. And I think, just getting, in terms of what I love here, just getting to see things from that different space. Like I said, I was an SMPH for a long time. And I loved getting to see how the med school worked. And I spent a long time there, especially once I squished myself out of the box of not being involved with the rest of campus very much. I spent a bunch of time trying to sort of demystify School of Medicine and public health for the rest of campus. And And now I sort of feel like I get to do that in some ways for Do It, because every group has its own, like other chunks of campus will have opinions or things they think are true about something that may or may not be, or things they assume they can't ask that they can. And so just continuing to try and open up those doors and conversations for people I really love.
Thank you. And yes, I wouldn't stay at the same place for almost 23 years now if it didn't work with absolutely wonderful people. So, Salima.
Well, not to sound like a broken record, but yes, it is the intersection for me of people, data, and being able to use strategy, which I enjoy a lot. I think it's for me, it's being able to see connections and gaps where sometimes others don't, and putting data to it to be able to answer the question. But the people are, it's a really important piece of the puzzle, in my opinion, too. So yeah, I would say people.
Wonderful. Thank you, Salima. Jamie?
Well, I will also make sure I say the people, because otherwise, if I don't, people will assume I don't think the people are a big part of it, which they are. So awesome, talented people that I get to work with. I also love that I get to meet people from all across the university and learn sort of what they do, what their unit does, just the ins and outs of how this place functions. In my role, I get to meet with a lot of the units under like the vice chancellor for finance and administration, which has been just eye-opening on just all the work that goes in day out in that space, as well as in many other areas at the university. And then I really love enterprise scale service delivery. So in my role, I get to sort of, I know it's a nerdy statement to make there, but you know, it's the scale of the services that are being delivered within my department, and all that goes into it, and you know, helping support teams through that journey of continuous improvement and of, you know, always aiming for service excellence and operational excellence, and at the same time doing that in an environment that is so incredibly varied and complex like the university, which means you're always kind of grappling with these questions of delivering at scale and delivering for specialization, and what's the appropriate balance between those, and how do you manage the evolution and changes of the services in that landscape. So it's a thing I enjoy a lot, which is good because we've got some big scale services in my department.
Yes, we do. Yeah, when you explain it like that, it sounds a little more clear. When you say, I love enterprise, yeah, okay. But yeah, there are so many interesting challenges there and a lot of meat. Kim?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, this is the fourth institution I've worked at, and I've worked in many different cultures and subcultures. And so I would do +1 to everything that the other panelists mentioned, but I would add, for me, this is a very forgiving culture. And so especially when you talk about like IT services, excuse me. I know when I first came in, you know, we had an outage, I think, of our student information system, and I was ready to like full on like, all right, let's get everybody coordinated, and I did. But excuse me, it was really interesting watching the users respond, because they were like, you know, at other institutions I've worked at, probably because I was more in like central IT services, and we were the ones that had to behind the scenes, you know, get everything back up online. It was like all hands on deck. So there was a lot more coordination and some not so nice different leaders at other institutions too, right? Where I think there's still that urgency here, but I would say I would just describe it as like there's more forgiveness and grace, I think, in terms of like things happen, and we want to make sure that we understand what happened, we identify the root cause, but then we move on, right? And we so that's a very unique thing I've found, that's very unique for working at this institution. So
Thank you, Kim. Yeah. Right, we have a question in chat. What does the future of working in higher education look like for women in IT, and what types of upskilling are recommended to prepare you for remaining resilient through those changes? And then thank you for sharing your insights and finding all y'all inspiring and amazing. Well, I guess hopefully Elizabeth got a chance to see that question before I call on her. Elizabeth.
I need one of those randomizer things. Everybody's
It's not me first. Sorry.
I had read it, but I hadn't really processed to sort of find my way to a brilliant answer on it, I guarantee. But I think, I guess maybe I can answer going forward by looking backward a little bit. So I would say that that watching for where you have an ability or a way of looking at things that can contribute to how we're thinking about something new that's coming out. So something new that's happening. So like Salima, you gave a great example of that. And I really loved the quote that you said, growth looks like stepping forward before you're ready to. When new technologies are coming out, nobody knows all the right answers yet. And so, you know, there was a lot of talk yesterday about how fast technology changes and people looking back across the span of their careers and seeing all of these changes that have come in. And when a new thing comes out, or when a new tool comes to campus, or a new service comes in, or you know, whatever it is, like there are a lot of people who are going to have voices and say they know how this should go and they know the right way. And if you have an idea about how that might work, or how you could collaborate, or how your group could collaborate to step into those spaces, I think that's sort of like automatic future proofing to me.
Nice. Thank you for that answer. I'm personal anecdote, for a long time, I'm very, empathy is probably like #1 strength finder. And for a long time, I never saw that as any sort of thing. All I did was break my own heart. And but then I started to see it all. Can I use this as a lens to look at what I'm doing? Use this empathy to empathize for my users, empathize for, you know, accessibility needs. And can I sort of leverage that strength in me? And that's such a weird and wonderful step to take in your own development. So yeah, sort of, okay, we have this thing, can we apply it? We have this insight that is formed by the strengths that we have. How can we carry that in where maybe somebody else, no one else is seeing it this way? So thank you. Salima.
Yeah. So I think I think there's something to be said about, reading and being aware of what's going on in the space right now. And AI is taking and dominating that immensely. So depending on where you might sit with that, of where you believe AI should be, I think being aware, and the knowledge of where it's going, what's happening with it, and upskilling, I guess, in that way, could lead you to be in a really good spot in the future. And you know, I would, in conjunction, uh, reach out to campus and find places to be part of, because you'd be surprised at a lot of things that are happening, outside of your unit, that could really help, expand your knowledge of where you're at, and how people are thinking about things. To Jamie's point about, just understanding how other places are doing things, can give you a world of information that you can actually apply and learn from. And in that there is an upskilling that's occurring through that. So that would be my two pieces.
Interesting. So Seema and I took some graduate level classes together, and like trying to keep up with the AI. I think taking it upon yourself to find some of the places where it's failing people, and being able to take that voice into, so AI has a tendency to amplify a lot of the negative things, a lot of the biases that the internet already has, and then taking that responsibility into rooms where it may not have gone into prior. So
Exactly.
totally agree. Jamie?
There's layers to this one, so I'm also grappling with what's a great answer. I'll offer one small lens on this. There's a lot of thinking about like upskilling and preparing for the future that I feel like applies to anyone at our environment. Just being resilient and building up that skill of resilience and being able to adapt to change and thrive in times of uncertainty. I think higher education is, for everyone involved, is kind of in that space right now for the foreseeable future. On the specific part of this around like women in IT in this space, I look back and like Amanda said, I've had those experiences where people have like, they didn't believe that I wrote the code that they thought was great. And I just had to press it like, no, I like, who wrote it? I wrote it. Who wrote it? No, they're like, no, I'm not just promoting it. I wrote it. And so, I look forward and I'm hopeful that there continues to be less of that for in the future, that people are not having to sort of defend their technical skills so heavily, that there is less of a need to kind of like buffer against bias or misperceptions about women in IT that I've experienced at times. And there's less, I hope that in the future there continues to be less need for that sort of like strategizing and building community to collectively strategize to break through barriers. And so I don't know, that's a little more about like just a hopeful vision for the trajectory that we can continue to be on. I have seen improvements in my time, and I've also had to work really hard with a lot of others to kind of work through some of those challenges. So I don't know if that helps or answers a piece of it, but
it is unfortunate that it still happens. I've been a professional developer for over 25 years, and I was in a meeting a month ago where the person talking could not hear me. They could not hear me asking questions. Thankfully, I was there with someone else who was willing to repeat my questions for me. So he happened to be a man and understood what was happening, but was willing to actually ask the questions for me, which I greatly appreciated because I just wanted the answer. But it was very strange that this person could not hear me. There were 3 people in the room. So anyway, why is it still happening? Hey, preaching to the choir. I keep muting myself too early. Kim.
Yes. Do you want me to take this question and then also start answering for the second question?
That would be fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I think in terms of upskilling, I think there's the tech skills and the way you do that, I think the team already addressed, right, is just staying current and looking for opportunities to grow yourself. But more on the soft skills, I think it's knowing how to lead yourself, right? And Kelsey suggested some ways that you might be able to do that. I've been very fortunate in my career where I had mentors and I still have the same mentors today. Now I refer to them as my old guy club, because it's interesting because there are no women in my mentor circle, which might be a gap. But I have in my career been fortunate that I have these different individuals who saw something in me that at times I probably didn't even see myself, and that they led me. And now, as I've become more mature in my my career, I know how to lead myself. But if you don't know how to do that, I would say that would be a big one. And then the other thing I think is like lean on other people if you need assistance with that, or if you're even just like trying to figure out like from a technical side, you've got supervisors if they're supportive. If not, there's a great IT community here too. So other groups that you could reach out to. In terms of the glass cliff, I've experienced that multiple times over my career. And when I mentioned before about like knowing when to speak up, that's a piece of it for me. I took me a while, even as when I first moved into management, to know when to speak up and when not to feel comfortable speaking up, and especially in certain groups or certain different levels of leadership that I was engaging with. I got to a place where I wouldn't take notes when I was on campus. I wouldn't take my laptop, and I wouldn't take a pen and pencil because I didn't want to be put in a position where I was asked to take notes. I would ask for somebody else to do that, and then, or just say, hey, is anybody going to be taking meeting minutes because I forgot to bring my stuff with me. So I hope somebody else does, right? So that's one way. I think the other thing is, as you move into leadership positions, I think it's really important to know when to push back, right? I've been in situations where, things have been said that I sometimes will sit and choose whether I want to engage in a conversation, whether the time is right. And usually for me, it was as a manager or leader, if I had other women in the room and there was some sort of a derogatory question, I would jump really quick because I didn't want them to ever feel like they weren't supported. If it was more of something where it was just said to me, I would maybe try to make a joke and then see how that landed. And then if that was enough to like get somebody to stop, I would just let it die. If it wasn't and it became a repeated pattern, I would maybe pull somebody aside and say, hey, that's not cool. What are you doing here? But that takes time. Like I recognize too by saying that takes a lot of different life experiences to be able to feel comfortable to do that. But that just gives us a couple of ideas to think about. I'd also say I don't drink coffee, right? Sorry, I don't even know how to make coffee because I don't drink it. You know, that's but like I said, every person has to find their own way to their own comfort level to push back on that stuff.
And then were you able to address the next question about avoiding the glass cliff?
Yeah, could you talk to me? Let's see, the glass cliff, could you expand on that just a little bit? It means doing less technical work and being pushed out of individual contributor roles. I mean, if that's what you mean by a glass cliff, for me, I don't necessarily think that's necessarily a bad thing, right? I think it depends on where you want to go with your career. So if you're wanting to move into an IT management role, letting go of being the individuals that develop code or the individuals that are, you know, doing DBA work or application administration, you're going to have to let go of that when you move into management because otherwise you're going to burn yourself out. But I think if it's, you know, certain individuals are trying to push you out and you want to stay in that technical role, I think it's just continuing to advocate for yourself. And, you know, if you're not in a position where you have leaders that are willing to embrace that, then I would say maybe time to look for something else. Does that answer the question, Amanda?
It's Lindsay's question, so I'm not.
Oh, Lindsay, I'm
I
sorry.
have to hear from Lindsay. Do any of the other panelists want to take this question? We're down to about 4 minutes left, so.
I can add a few thoughts. You know, I definitely, I resisted moving back into management in the IT career at first for a little bit because I had done management leadership in politics. And then, you know, I was in that sort of individual contributor role and really loved that. And so when the opportunities started arising to move into management leadership again, it took me a little while to sort of be like, do I really want to, you know, get back into that world? What do I want to do? So I can definitely appreciate that internal grappling with like, what do I personally want to be doing most? I think like Kim said, it's, you know, keeping it as like, I think it helps to keep that as just like your own personal career choice of like, what do I want to be doing? And then on the question of like, okay, if I'm an individual contributor and I move into management now, you know, are there no more women doing individual contributor work on my team? You know, to me, that points to then just the broader question of inclusion and, you know, do we have the environment that is welcoming of, you know, are there deeper issues we need to be addressing in a specific situation? I will say, as I've moved into formal management positions here at the university, I have found opportunities to like kind of like Elizabeth said, like be that supervisor that, you know, maybe I didn't I've had wonderful supervisors, but you know, I also had not thought about, none of them were women in the IT space. And so yeah, so I don't think anyone should get pushed into a leadership role they don't want to be in. If they move into it, I think there is a lot of ability to still remain tied into the technical space and to be, you know, you're an IT leader. And there's something I think for us all to like reflect on of why might it be that if a woman moves into leadership, we might think you're less technical. Do we question the CIO who's a man for not being a, you know, he's a technical leader, he's not coding, he's not doing DBA work. And so I think it's also, where are these things symptoms of maybe where we still have mental work to do to reframe our thinking around what it means to be a leader in IT and the relationship to technology and the intersection with, you know, people's identities and to a tricky space. So additional thoughts there, I guess.
Kim, did you have one more thing to say?
You know, I just going to add, I saw Lindsay responded, and I know in my career I had one of my mentors was pushing me very hard to go into a certain role. And I actually got to a point where I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, that's just not like, and he would be like, you would be so awesome at it. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't, not internally would I be awesome at it, because it would not be something so that I would want to do. And so I think that's something to just, also, you know, again, speak up for yourself, and you have to understand when individuals are pushing you to a certain direction, is that what you want to do? Is that how you want to lead yourself? Or are you being led by somebody that maybe they're seeing something in you, but you have to step back and say, dude, is that something I really want to do?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, panelists. I think, you know, as a theme, we're seeing this, like, how do you manage yourself and how do you make these decisions? And there's these inflection points that we need to drive our, and be active participant in our careers and how we're going to do things. Yes, lots of people luck into roles that they want. A lot of us don't. So it'll work out. Hopefully everyone got some insight from this group. I love these people, and I wish I could take this recording and show it to my 25-year-old self, and I would have saved myself a lot of heartache and then imposter syndrome and stress and just feeling like I didn't belong there. So thank you, everybody. And we'll wrap this up. Thank you, Jason, for moderating. And enjoy the rest of the conference. There's a few more great sessions to go. Thank you.